Chapter 795. 93, 78%. Central TV's Spring Festival Gala ratings return. The audience's praise is good. Chen Guizhi's first director of the Spring Festival Gala has given a satisfactory answer. Seeking a breakthrough in tradition, this year's Spring Festival Gala will finally no longer disappoint and ridicule. Counting the highlights of this year's Spring Festival Gala. The fastest to react was always the online media. Just after New Year's Eve, all the major website Spring Festival Gala features were updated with comments on this year's Spring Festival Gala. Among them, NetEase, QQ, and CCTV set up an audience voting session on New Year's Eve. All the viewers watching the Spring Festival Gala could vote for any of the acts, and finally choose the most popular act. The final results were officially announced on the morning of the first day of the new year. Among them, the skit, the protagonist and the supporting roles, the large-scale costume dance, Flourishing Age, Tomorrow Will Be Better, the multi-person acrobatic Golden Dragon Storms the Sea, and the closing song, An Unforgettable Night, respectively took the top 5 spots. The protagonist and the supporting roles, which was ranked first, had a favorable rating of 97.25%, setting the best record since the beginning of the online voting for the Spring Festival Gala programs. The excellent performances of the two famous skit performers, Gao Disheng and Zhu Kaiqiang, won almost everyone's unanimous applause. This skit did not use annoying online jokes, nor did it make fun of the disadvantaged for fun. There was no boring flattery of the main theme, and there was no forced tickling of the audience's armpits or pretentious language. There was no sensationalism or vulgarity. It relied on the story itself and humorous words to conquer the audience. The entire plot of the story was extremely tight, and the contradictions and conflicts were constantly climaxing. Gao Disheng and Lin Kai's performance was even more impeccable, especially Gao Disheng's performance of the supporting role was extremely vivid. His acting skills were strong enough to put a group of industry insiders to shame. And the media's evaluation of this skit was also excellent. Even those media reviewers who liked to mock and ridicule were not stingy with their praises. Some people even regarded it as the best skit in the history of the Spring Festival Gala, or at least one of them. Compared to the media, the audience, especially the netizens, had a more realistic evaluation. It's so interesting. Gao Disheng's acting is so good. My stomach hurts from laughing. Dad nearly choked on his laughter. It's a work of conscience. Central TV has finally come up with a decent program. The more skits like this, the better. I hope it will be even better. I didn't expect that a thick-browed, big-eyed Zhu Kaiqiang would also betray the revolution. What a joke, the audience's eyes were sharp. They knew very well what was sincerity and what was deceit. They were not stingy with their applause and sincere praise for the former. The Spring Festival Gala was a free New Year's Eve feast. Everyone hoped to eat delicious food, not cold rice that had been stir-fried several times or rotten ingredients. The ridicule and criticism in the past was actually a demand for higher spiritual enjoyment. On this point, the main character and the supporting roles beat its peers to the ground. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, the leading role and supporting role easily had more than 10 million views on CCTV, and the search volume on search engines had also exceeded 10 million, which showed how popular this program was. The influence of the protagonist and the supporting roles has been widely spread on the internet. In many forums, post bars, and QQ groups, a variety of emoticons and jokes have appeared. Among them, such as, Captain, don't shoot, I didn't expect that you, XXX, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, would betray the revolution, are flying everywhere. Gao Disheng had been silent for several years, and Kevin Lin was about to retire from the entertainment industry. But with the help of the leading role and the supporting role, the two of them became famous again, and their popularity was far greater than before. Then, some attentive viewers discovered that the author of the leading role and the supporting roles was actually Lu Chen. At first, some people didn't believe it. After looking through the video of the program and finding the subtitles, they were shocked again. Is this Lu Chen the same Lu Chen? When did Lu Chen start writing skits? Puzzled, Puzzled and curious fans have run to the Waves blog to seek confirmation, and Lu Chen, Chenfei Media, CCTV, and even Chenguoji. Then, it was director Chen who gave a response at the first time. Lu Chen is Lu Chen, not someone else. This made the fans explode. What the heck, this idol is too awesome. Everyone knew that Lu Chen's talent in pop music creation was unparalleled. They also knew that he could write such wonderful scripts as Autumn in My Heart and You from the Star, but they didn't expect him to also have such amazing talent in the creation of skits. Not only was it the creation of the leading role and the supporting role, everyone also discovered that Lu Chen had not only brought out a skit script for this year's Spring Festival Gala. Among the top 5 most popular programs, other than this skit, Tomorrow Will Be Better, was also written by Lu Chen. Gently awaken your sleeping heart, and slowly open your eyes. See if the busy world is still spinning in loneliness. The spring wind doesn't understand the mood, blowing at the heart of a young man, letting the tears on yesterday's face dry with memories. Looking up to find wings in the sky, Tomorrow Will Be Better was a completely new song. The singers were a gathering of stars, including Lu Chen, Chen Fei, Lu Gangsheng, Fang Yuehua, Zhang Fangfang, all of them were big stars. This work had a beautiful melody and an elegant style. It was full of positive energy and contained a strong humanistic sentiment, which easily resonated with the audience. Through the singing of the 7 stars, it became popular overnight. That was not all. Even the ending song of the Spring Festival Gala, An Unforgettable Night, also came from Lu Chen. In the past Spring Festival Gala, the ending song was a pure piece of music, the work of a deceased musician. It had not changed in the past 20 years, but this year was a major change. The melody of An Unforgettable Night was soothing and melodious, and the lyrics were warm and distant. It was easy to get close to the hearts of the audience, and it was also easy to sing. This song had a strong emotional tension and penetration. It not only expressed the sincere wishes when the banquet was about to end, but also expressed the infinite expectations and good wishes of meeting again in the coming year. The singer of this song was the famous female singer, Jia Linyuan. She sang the song euphemistically with a soft and delicate voice, and her voice was pleasant to the ear. If not for the ending song, it would definitely be ranked higher. Of the top 5 works of the Spring Festival Gala, 3 were brought out by Lu Chen. Tomorrow Will Be Better and An Unforgettable Night showed his deep talent in different fields of music and songs, and it was admirable. A music critic sighed on his blog. To say that Lu Chen was a musical genius was belittling him. He already had the qualifications to be the godfather of pop music. What he lacked was just a few crowns and time. Note, Tomorrow Will Be Better, lyrics, Luo Daio, Zhang Dachuan, Su Naisheng, Li Shouchuan, Zhang Aijia, Qiu Fusheng, Zhan Hongji / composer, Luo Daio. Chapter 796. Zizi the stainless steel fried basket was immersed in the yellow hot oil, and the frozen French fries in the basket immediately reacted wonderfully with the 170-degree palm olive oil, making a pleasant sound. After 1 minute and 30 seconds, Lu Chen lifted the fried basket out of the oil, shook it left and right about 5 times, and then put it into the oil pan again, so that it was finished in 2 minutes. In this process, the golden French fries completed a reborn change with the help of the boiling oil, and the air was filled with a strong fragrance, just waiting for the oil to be cleaned and loaded into the material box. Lu Chen has done the same job countless times in this KFC fast food restaurant. Even with his eyes closed, he will not make a mistake, and the time control is just right. Xiao Lu, are the French fries ready? A voice of inquiry came from outside, and Lu Chen replied without turning his head, "It'll be ready soon." Today is the weekend and it is dinner time, so business in the restaurant is particularly good. There is a long line in front of the 3 checkout counters, and the food is almost out of service. Although very tired, Lu Chen still insists on doing his best work. Although this job does not have much future prospects, it can help Lu Chen survive in Beijing, a super metropolis with a population of 30 million. After deducting the necessary monthly expenses, he can save some money to send home. Thinking of the heavy debt at home, Lu Chen let out a silent sigh in his heart, but his actions did not slow down in the slightest. He quickly packed the fries ordered by the customers and sent them to the counter. He was busy until after 9 o'clock, and business finally quieted down, leaving only a few customers in the restaurant to kill time or rest. Lu Chen was mopping the floor with a mop. Just now, a child accidentally spilled a drink on the ground, and Sister Wang, who was in charge of cleaning, went to the bathroom, so he took the initiative to do it. Squeak, the glass door was pushed open from the outside, and 3 men came in one after another. Lu Chen straightened up and smiled. "Welcome to KFC." The next moment, his voice froze. Lu Chen felt that the 3 people who had just entered were extremely familiar, as if they were the closest people to him. However, he just couldn't remember their names, so he was momentarily stunned. One of the men, who was wearing jeans and a t-shirt and had long hair hanging down to his shoulders, smiled and patted his shoulder, saying, "What's up? You don't even recognize us? We are your creditors." Creditors? Lu Chen's brain was a mess. He didn't remember owing the man money, but it wasn't right to say that he didn't know him. Lu Chen, another bespectacled, elegant middle-aged man, smiled and said, "Don't bother with him. He just doesn't know how to behave properly. We are very hungry. Hurry up and give us something to eat." Lu Chen nodded blankly. Okay. What do you want to eat?" He had forgotten that in KFC, customers would go to the cashier to order and pay, which was different from ordinary restaurants. The 3 of them sat down at a nearby table. The long-haired man shouted, "Give me a family bucket and a whole cow deluxe set meal. Add 3 more fries and add more ice cubes to the cola." Lu Chen noted it down and ran to the cashier in a daze to order. He even took out his own money to pay for the food. After a while, he sent the food over. The other party didn't stand on ceremony and chatted happily as they ate. The 3 of them were obviously very good friends. They chatted about a wide range of topics, including music, literature, and movies. Moreover, their conversations were quite interesting. Lu Chen, who was mopping the floor, listened attentively. The long-haired man talked the most. When he was talking about something, he even danced with joy. He was in high spirits and was unrestrained. The bespectacled man was cultured and refined. He could always keep up with the other party's topic, like a supporting character in a crosstalk. The other thin and tall man was much quieter. He was a man of few words, but he would always hit the nail on the head. He had a pair of dark eyes that were unfathomable. Lu Chen kept feeling that something was wrong. However, he was attracted by the topic of the 3 of them. His thoughts wandered and he didn't notice the passage of time until the sound of the closing bell rang. At that moment, there were only 3 customers left in the shop. Lu Chen came to his senses and walked over to say, "Sir, we are closing." The bespectacled man looked around at his companions and sighed. "Yes, it's time to go." He stood up and extended his hand toward Lu Chen. "Thank you for your hospitality. My name is Fang Mingyi." Lu Chen subconsciously shook hands with him. "Hello, my name is Lu Chen." The long-haired man stood up and extended his hand toward Lu Chen. "I am Su Bo. Now that we are even, you don't owe us anything anymore. Are you happy?" Lu Chen was speechless. The thin and tall man didn't shake hands with Lu Chen. He just took a deep look at Lu Chen and nodded. "His name is Mo Ran, an enigma." Su Bo patted Lu Chen's shoulder again and said, "We are leaving. We are going to Dianan to climb the Jade Dragon Snow Mountain." After that, the 3 of them left together. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment before he came to his senses. He immediately rushed out and shouted, "Don't go." However, on the empty street, they couldn't be seen at all. Lu Chen, just as Lu Chen was at a loss, a familiar voice came from the side. Lu Chen turned his head and saw a beautiful woman standing behind him with a complicated expression. "Wang Ying." Lu Chen blurted out, "Why are you here?" Wang Ying seemed to have made up her mind. She bit her lip and said, "Lu Chen, let's break up." Break up? Lu Chen felt that his head was about to explode. He couldn't believe his ears. "Why?" "I love you very much, but love can't replace reality. You can't give me what I want. Wang Ying talked endlessly, but Lu Chen couldn't hear a word. A kind of heart-wrenching pain spread in his body, and the cramps in his stomach made him involuntarily bend over and squat on the ground. No. Lu Chen, when he was in so much pain that he couldn't control himself, an angelic voice sounded in his ear, replacing Wang Ying's incantation. Lu Chen reluctantly raised his head. The bright light shone on him, making him unable to see the other person's face. Lu Chen. Another shout woke him up. Trying to open his eyes, Lu Chen found himself lying on the bed. The light on the bedside table was on. Chen Fei was holding him with a concerned look and asked softly, "Did you have a nightmare?" Lu Chen took a long breath and was completely awake. He asked, "What time is it?" Chen Fei said, "It's still early. Go back to sleep." Lu Chen didn't say anything, so she didn't ask. Lu Chen nodded and hugged her tightly in his arms, as if hugging the whole world. "It's so good to have you." Chapter 797. After the Lantern Festival, the new year could be considered to be truly over. From the first day of the new year to the 15th day of the first lunar month, except for attending a scheduled endorsement event, Lu Chen had no work. He spent most of his time with his family to make up for the regret of not having dinner together on New Year's Eve. For this reason, Lu Chen also declined several important announcements. If the loss was measured by economic benefits alone, a few million was the least, but for him now, money was no longer important. Visiting the Forbidden City, climbing the Great Wall, visiting the Temple Fair, skiing, watching the flag raising in Tiananmen Square. As a 1,000-year-old ancient capital and a super-modern metropolis, there were still many places to go in half a month in the capital. At home on the night of the Lantern Festival, Fang Yun made tangyuan for her son and daughter to eat. Tomorrow, she would leave the capital with Lu Shui and return to Zhedong. "Mom," Lu Chen ate 2 mouthfuls of the sweet and delicious tangyuan and said, "You should retire early and let Xiaoxua transfer to the capital. How nice it would be for our family to be together." Half a month's reunion made him relive the happiness and beauty of a big family, and the parting was beyond nostalgia. Lu Shi was very moved and said, yes, you might as well stay. We'll buy a villa, and we won't have to worry about not having a place to live." The housing prices in the capital were the highest in the country. It was almost impossible for ordinary people to settle down and buy a house in the capital. A few years ago, when the Lu family had not declined, they could not afford a villa in the capital. But now, not to mention Lu Chen, Lu Shi could easily come up with the down payment for a villa in the capital. Fang Yun said with a smile, "Let's talk about it later. My relatives and acquaintances are all in Binhai, and I'm used to it. I can't let you accompany me every day when I come to the capital to live, can I? Isn't it good now?" Lu Chen and Lu Shi looked at each other speechlessly. Fang Yun continued, "Now that you all have your own careers and Xiaoxua is in college, I have nothing to worry about, so you don't have to worry about me. If I want to come here in the future, it won't be too late to come back." After a pause, she said to Lu Shi, "You should also think about your own affairs. My brother is about to get married, and I can't still be single, right? Your career is important, but you can't neglect your personal life." As the manager of a media company with assets of more than 100 million yuan and the general manager of hundreds of employees, Lu Shi, who had been honed for several years, was an out-and-out strong woman, but her mother's tactful reminder made her speechless. After swallowing a glutinous rice ball, Lu Shi mumbled, "Got it." Lu Chen laughed. It was rare to see his sister look so guilty. Lu Shi was not afraid of him. She glared at him and scooped a few more glutinous rice balls from her bowl. "What are you laughing at? If you're not afraid of getting fat, eat more. If you really want your mother to live in the capital, then hurry up and have a few children with Fei, Lu Chen's smile suddenly turned into a wry smile. Chen Fei, who was sitting next to them, did not expect to be implicated. She blushed and lowered her head. Lu Shui hugged Chen Fei's arm and asked in a low voice, "Sister-in-law, when are you going to have a baby?" Chen Fei's face turned even redder and said, "You can ask your brother." Lu Chen quickly surrendered. Let's eat glutinous rice balls. They won't taste good when they're cold. Everyone, eat later. Fang Yun looked at her son, daughter, and future daughter-in-law, and a heartfelt smile appeared on her face. Only such a home could be considered a real home. On the morning of March 3rd, the 16th day of the first lunar month, Fang Yun and Lu Shui returned to Hangzhou. On the same day, the challenge equipment for the swimming complex was all installed and passed the strict safety test. CCTV's preparation was also completed, and they could start the shooting and production of the show at any time. On March 5th, the audition for the actors of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer officially began. There were a total of 500 contestants from all over the country. These young people who were selected through the online audition would go through many rounds of selection and finally be qualified to participate in the shooting of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. They might become famous overnight. But first of all, they had to face a difficult test. The first was the elimination of the challenge. There were a total of 7 challenges, which would be the obstacle for everyone. Only a few people could stand out. According to the plan, the challenge audition would be completed in 15 days. CCTV Channel 2 would film the whole process and produce and broadcast 1 episode a day. Then there would be the semi-finals and the finals. For Qinfei Media, after more than half a year of careful planning and preparation, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was about to start filming, which was undoubtedly a big event in the beginning of 2018. The movie The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer would be divided into 3 parts: The Sword of the Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, The Undefeatable East, and the final battle of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. They would all be finished within the year and would be released in the summer of this year, the Spring Festival, and the summer of next year. So far, the stars who had been confirmed to participate in the shooting of this series of movies included Lu Qin, Qin Fei, Lu Gangsheng, and Tan Hong. In terms of the lineup, it was not inferior to other commercial blockbusters. However, according to Qinfei Media's habits in film and television production, it was unlikely that there would be other big names or popular fresh meats who would participate in the film. It was very likely that they would bring a group of newcomers. In addition, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer would be filmed in 2019, followed by the new martial arts drama The Legend of the Condor Heroes. At the end of this year, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer would also be released. And at the end of this year, the online game of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer would also be released. At the beginning of the new year, Qinfei Media showed a series of plans, which made people feel dazzled. The fans, especially the readers of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, were naturally cheering. However, for the people in the industry, what they saw was the ambition of Qinfei Media, or more accurately, Lu Qin. Around The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, a big martial arts IP was gradually taking shape. It was emitting an aggressive light, which could not be ignored at all. The Wolf is Coming. This was the title of a film and television media person's blog post on his Waves blog. In terms of film and television, especially in terms of movies, Qinfei Media should be regarded as a recruit. It should be known that as the founder of Qinfei Media, Lu Chen has only made his debut for more than 3 years. Moreover, he made his debut as a singer. It has only been more than 2 years since he entered the circle. However, his halo was too dazzling. All 3 of his TV series had created viewership records and were popular throughout Southeast Asia. The box office of A Chinese Ghost Story was over 1 billion, and the sales of the peripherals made all the people in the industry feel ashamed. Now he was shooting 3 series of big movies at the same time, aiming at the golden period of this year and next. How could his opponents not tremble? Chapter 798. Suddenly, it was like a spring breeze, thousands of pear blossoms bloomed. Overnight, wuxia became the most popular IP, and countless people had their eyes on it. The audition for the actors of The Storms of 8 Directions in the capital and The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was going on in the swimming complex of the capital. The program, Challenge, was also broadcast on the variety channel of CCTV2. The first episode got 5.78% of the audience rating. Although CCTV Variety Channel's brand was well known and the program's ratings were not too bad, to be able to achieve such a high rating in the first episode, the influence of the smiling, the proud wanderer was the key. This talent show should be said to serve the smiling, the proud wanderer movie. In the eyes of many people in the industry, it was destined to be popular. With CCTV's background, Lu Chen's brand, the smiling, the proud wanderer's fame, and a novel program idea, there was no possibility of failure. Many local satellite TV stations were already rubbing their hands, ready to copy this model. Even without the gimmick of a talent show, it was enough to attract people as an entertainment program. They could even add more content on this basis, expand the scope of participants, and set up more and more generous rewards. The manufacturer that customized the equipment for Chinfei Media was hit by a big pie that fell from the sky. This year's orders were all full, and the inquiries were endless. However, the TV station and entertainment industry following the trend was nothing compared to following the trend in the film and television industry. To this day, even an outsider could see that Lu Chen was going to make a name for himself in wuxia. The movie, The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist, was the beginning of his rise. It would definitely bring about a wave of wuxia craze this year. If it was someone else, people might not be so sure, but who was Lu Chen? Who had ever seen him fail? Lu Chen sang, created the campus folk song, and brought the new folk style of the pop music industry. Lu Chen filmed, and the Urban Trilogy became a classic. Those who followed him to film the same type of TV series were all very happy. Lu Chen played variety shows, and the copyright of the Voice of China was sold overseas. Since a long time ago, Lu Chen had the reputation of golden touch in the circle. Now that he was betting on wuxia, how many people could hold back from following him? For a time, there were many followers. First of all, the original novels with the theme of wuxia became popular. After The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, many so-called new wuxia novels emerged in China. The copyright fees for film and TV adaptations soared to an amazing level. At the end of last year, a young amateur writer wrote Young Wanderer. The first and second volumes totaled 500,000 words. The sales were very good. At present, it was still on the weekly sales list of Xinhua Book Company. In the end, the film adaptation rights of this book started at 5 million. After many parties fought fiercely, it was finally won by Wanhao Pictures at a sky-high price of 12 million. At the same time, they announced that they would start filming this year with a total investment of 150 million. Wanhao Pictures was a subsidiary of Wanhao Real Estate, and Wanhao Real Estate was also one of the top 10 real estate developers in the country. It could be said to be rich and powerful, and it was undoubtedly very optimistic about this market that it had snatched the copyright of young pugilistic world. As a new disruptor, Wanhao Pictures dared to bet. Of course, the established companies in the industry were not to be outdone. Just after the Spring Festival, 5 film companies had already announced their corresponding filming plans. They were all going for the popular wuxia IP. In addition to movies, there were also many companies preparing to shoot wuxia TV series this year. The result was that this IP was getting more and more popular. Many writers and screenwriters in the circle were eager to write about the same type of subject. At the same time, many stars in the film and TV industry revealed on their blogs that they had accepted roles in certain wuxia movies or wuxia TV series, adding fuel to the fire. A tall tree attracts the wind. In the elegant tea room of Beijing's Scenic Garden Private Club, Chen Guizhi said to Lu Chen with a smile, "You are a real big tree now. Do you feel a lot of pressure?" The owner of this high-end private club was Chen Guizhi's friend, so this famous director often met with his friends here, drinking tea, chatting, or talking about business. Of course, not everyone was qualified to get his invitation, and it was Lu Chen's second time here. They were discussing the filming of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. After directing the CCTV Spring Festival Gala, Chen Guizhi officially became the director of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. But he only agreed to direct The Sword of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer, which was the first movie. For the next 2 movies, Invincible of the East and The Final Showdown, Lu Chen decided to direct them himself, and he would be the action director for The Sword of Mount Hua. What Lu Chen didn't expect was that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer had attracted the covetous eyes of so many big shots in the industry before it even started shooting. It was estimated that when The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, Sword of Mount Hua, was officially released, it would encounter many competitions and obstacles. It was Chen Guozhi who pointed out the key point and gave a kind reminder: remember to keep the script confidential. In addition, you need to strengthen the management of the company, especially the crew, and improve the contract for the actors. Don't overestimate the moral standards of some people. As a famous director, Chen Guozhi had been in the film and TV industry for decades, so he knew the rules too well. Nowadays, the investment of a big movie could easily reach 100 or 200 million, and the market scale was expanding year by year. The competition was extremely fierce, and in order to defeat the competitors, many people were not afraid to play dirty tricks. No matter how famous Lu Chen was, in the face of real interests, he couldn't protect himself from people's unfathomable hearts. Although Lu Chen had shot a Chinese ghost story before, the situation in Hong Kong was very different from that in China, so Chen Guozhi couldn't help but worry. Lu Chen accepted Chen Guozhi's advice modestly. I will, thank you for your reminder. Chen Guozhi smiled and said, that's good. I can tell you that someone offered me 100 million to break the contract with you and shoot their movie instead. 100 million. Lu Chen was also shocked. He didn't expect the domestic film industry to be so fierce. Chen Guozhi was a top director in the country, and his quoted salary was about 50 million, plus the share. He got a friendship price for The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, which was 30 million plus 5% of the box office profit. As for the penalty of breach of the contract, it was only a symbolic 10 million. But 100 million was really a test. After deducting the 10 million penalty, there was still 90 million left. Lu Chen didn't think that Chen Guozhi was making up a story to raise his own value, and he also understood what the latter meant. He smiled and said, how about I break the contract with you and let you earn this 100 million first? Chen Guozhi laughed out loud. I want to, but I can't bring myself to do it. So, I just hope that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer can sell 1 or 2 billion box office, and then I can earn all the money back. Lu Chen raised his cup and replaced the wine with tea. Happy cooperation. Chapter 799. The popularity of martial arts IP brought by The Smiling, Proud Wanderer not only attracted the attention of many people in the industry, but also brought several very special guests to Lu Chen. One of them was Luo Rong, the head of Ningxian County, and the other was Fang Xinho, Lu Chen's uncle, who was also the deputy section chief of Ningxian County's Industry and Commerce Bureau. Lu Chen received several guests at the headquarters of Chenfei Media. He received a call from his mother, Fang Yun, the day before yesterday, and then he came today. It was very fast. Ningxian County was located in the southwest of Zhejiang Province. It belonged to the relatively backward area of the province. It was an agricultural county with many mountains and few rivers. However, the natural environment and cultural scenery were quite good, and it was a famous tourist destination. Fang Yun was from Ningxian, and Lu Chen's grandfather lived in Ningxian for generations. Lu Chen lived in Ningxian for 2 years when he was a child, so he could be regarded as half a Ningxian person. It was precisely because of this relationship that a few uninvited guests had come to visit. Lu Chen complained, Uncle, why didn't you call me first and let me pick you up at the airport? Fang Xinho had called him after he had arrived in the capital, and then he had directly brought people over. Fang Xinho was a few years older than Fang Yun. He was a kind and gentle person with no ambition in his career, so he was only a small deputy section chief in the system for so many years. This uncle had a good relationship with Fang Yun. When the Lu family was in trouble, he came to Binhai. Although he didn't help much, Lu Chen still remembered this friendship very clearly. Fang Xinho smiled and said, Mayor Luo didn't let me call. I didn't want to trouble you. Lu Chen shook his head and said, what trouble? You are all elders. I should greet you. He reached out to the middle-aged man standing next to Fang Xinho and said, Hello, Mayor Luo. Fang Yun had already said it on the phone. Hello, Lu Chen, I've heard a lot about you. Luo Rong smiled and shook hands with Lu Chen. After a few polite words, Lu Chen introduced him to Lu Shi. Everyone sat down in the VIP lounge. A group of 7 people from Ningxian County was personally led by the county head to the capital. This was considered a very high standard. Normally, with Fang Xinho's status, he was not qualified to be part of this group. But now, his importance was completely not beneath Luo Rong's. Because people in Ningxian hoped that Lu Chen could shoot the movie in Ningxian, or at least shoot in Ningxian, so that the tourism industry in Ningxian could be promoted. In the past, Ningxian's pillar industries were agriculture, breeding, forestry, and so on. There were no decent industries, so the economic level had always been very backward. In recent years, the domestic tourism industry had been developing, and Ningxian had also benefited from it. The proportion of the tourism industry had been increasing year by year. After Luo Rong was transferred to Ningxian as the county head, in order to speed up the economic development, he decided to vigorously expand the tourism industry and fully develop the tourism resources of Ningxian. Under his promotion, the county also built a Ningxian film and television city in the scenic area of Qingning Mountain, with a total investment of more than 500 million. The county head's idea was very good. The scenic area of Qingning Mountain was very rich in tourism resources. There was Qingning Mountain, which stretched for hundreds of miles and was covered with primeval forests. There was also the clear and beautiful Qingning River, and the time-honored Yunshan Temple and Sanqing Temple, as well as the ancient villages that maintained the original ecology. It was undoubtedly the right thing to promote the economy through tourism. But he took too big a step. He invested hundreds of millions to build the Mingqing Film and Television City. But in recent years, film and television cities had sprung up everywhere. Ningxian was located in a remote area, and the transportation and supporting facilities were not perfect. So when the Ningxian Film and Television City was just completed, it was faced with the awkward situation of a lack of tourists. Planting the parasol tree had attracted phoenixes. Now that the parasol tree on Mount Ning had been planted, only a few birds had flown over. One could imagine how much pressure Luo Rong, who was in charge, was facing. Fortunately, the county had accidentally learned that the big star Lu Chen, who had just appeared on the Spring Festival Gala, was actually half a Ningxian man. And he was going to shoot a big movie with more than 100 million investment. So he immediately connected the dots. As an official, he didn't know much about the entertainment industry. He basically didn't pay attention to stars and artists. But since the construction of the film and television city, the situation was different. Now Luo Rong was very clear about the influence of a big star like Lu Chen, and how much attention the movie, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, would attract. So for Ningxian, it was undoubtedly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It was not a legend that a movie could make a tourist spot popular. In 2010, the movie Deep Love was very popular in cinemas all over the country. The ancient town of Changxiao in the movie became very popular, and the streets were full of tourists. The demonstration effect of a big movie was very strong. If The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was shot in the Ningxian Film and Television City, as long as Ningxian did a little promotion, the whole project could be revitalized. Luo Rong brought Fang Xinho to the capital to find Lu Chen. He was playing the family card. For this, Lu Chen didn't have any objection. People couldn't live only for themselves. As long as Ningxian met the shooting conditions, it was not a problem to get a few locations. After all, he was half a Ningxian man. How about this, County Head Luo? Lu Chen thought for a while and said, I'll send someone to Ningxian first to understand the situation. As long as the conditions are right, I'm willing to shoot the movie in Ningxian. That's great. Luo Rong couldn't help but be happy. He stretched out his hands to Lu Chen and said, on behalf of the millions of people in Ningxian, I thank you. In addition, our county government will fully cooperate with the shooting of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer! Lu Chen was speechless. He hadn't fully agreed yet, but Luo Rong directly thanked him on behalf of the people. Shaking hands with Luo Rong, Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, Thank you, County Head Luo. Luo Rong smiled and said, It's natural for our government to cooperate. I'm going to transfer Chief Fang to the County Tourism Bureau as the Deputy Director. He'll be in charge of the tourist area and the film and television city. Fang Xinho said, "Ah." Obviously, he didn't know about this before. Lu Chen and Lu Shi looked at each other and saw the admiration in each other's eyes. This county head was really good at being an official. He was decisive and willing to take out benefits. It was related to Uncle Tang's future, and because of the relationship between relatives in his hometown, Lu Chen didn't need to pay more. The shooting of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, in Ningxian had basically been finalized. Of course, it was still necessary to inspect the shooting site. The total investment of hundreds of millions of yuan couldn't be sloppy. Therefore, Lu Shi led the team back to Ningxian with Luo Rong and Fang Xinho. When Chen Fei heard about this on the same day, he decided to go and have a look. Chapter 800. Are you going to Ningxian, too? Chen Fei's idea surprised Lu Chen. What for? Hearing Lu Chen's question, Chen Fei asked angrily, "Can't I just go and have fun? Isn't it good for me to go with Sister Lu Shi?" A faint blush appeared on her pretty face. "I can also visit your grandparents while I'm at it." The last reason was her real purpose, wasn't it? Lu Chen surrendered. "Fine, you go first, I'll come back later." Lu Chen should have been the most suitable person to go and have a look. After all, he was the real controller of the movie, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. When it came to the important shooting location, he had to visit it in person. However, the cooperation program with the Central Television Variety Channel was in full swing, so Lu Chen couldn't leave for a while. He could only let Lu Shi go first to understand the situation. Now Chen Fei was also there, so it was not a big deal. As long as she was happy. "Then I'll wait for you in Ningxian." Chen Fei smiled and kissed Lu Chen's face, saying, "Then be good in the capital." Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lu Shi touched her forehead and complained, "You too, can't you pay attention to your image?" Chen Fei giggled, held Lu Shi's arm and said, "Sister Lu Shi, let's go buy something for the trip." Obviously, she couldn't wait. On the third day after the people from Ningxian County arrived in the capital, Chen Fei, Lu Shi, and several people from Chen Fei Media went to Ningxian with them to have a look at the scenic area and the new film and television city. Because the inspection this time was related to whether the filming site of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer could be located in Ningxian, and whether the film and television city in Ningxian could get out of the difficult situation, Ningxian County attached great importance to it. They had started to prepare for the reception before they set off. Originally, it was enough for Ningxian to treat Lu Shi seriously as a representative. Now, with the addition of Chen Fei, although the treatment was not as good as the inspection of national leaders, it was enough to cause a huge sensation in this remote county town in eastern Zhejiang. Lu Chen didn't catch up with the excitement, but he did see on the internet that Ningxian County had advertised Chen Fei's visit to Ningxian as a daughter-in-law returning to her mother's home. This made him speechless. This kind of popularity was very skillful. But the ones who are really good at leeching off popularity are the people in the entertainment industry. With the early publicity of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, in addition to a large number of martial arts IP hyped up, there were also a lot of star artists rushing to leech off popularity. Among them, the hottest star was Gu Lei, the so-called hardcore star representative. This actor, who became an actor halfway through, was once the runner-up of the national kickboxing competition. He entered the film and television industry with his excellent skills and handsome appearance. So far, he has shot many films and TV series. Gu Lei's famous work was The Stormy South City, which had a total box office of 150 million, and won several film awards, including the Best Actor. But after The Stormy South City, Gu Lei's films were mediocre. He mainly shot action scenes, and basically didn't need a stunt double for the fighting scenes, so he was hyped up as a hardcore star, and his popularity was lower than that of the A-list. The agency that Gu Lei signed a contract with was famous in the circle for being good at hyping up, so they certainly wouldn't miss this wave of martial arts craze. And Gu Lei was also very lucky. He was chosen by the Land Pictures as the male lead of the new film The New 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants, playing the role of Zhang Zhao, one of the 7 gallants. The Land Pictures was one of the top 5 film companies in the country, and it had produced many movies that were very popular at the box office. This time, they also targeted the martial arts TV series, and specially chose the classic novel of the Qing dynasty, The 3 Heroes and 5 Gallants, to adapt it. As a big shot in the industry, the Land Pictures obviously didn't want to just get a share of the profits. First of all, the script they chose was very clever. The story of the 3 Heroes and 5 Gallants was widely spread among the people. In the 1980s, it was made into a movie in Xinjiang and released in China, so it had a good audience base. The Land Pictures claimed to have invested 100 million yuan. In addition to Goulet, they also invited a large cast. Although there were no top stars, the combination of these A-list and B-list actors was quite amazing. Originally, with Goulet's status, it was unlikely that he would be the first male lead in such a movie, but the company he signed a contract with was very good, plus his image and appearance were more suitable for the role, so he was lucky to be chosen. Goulet knew that his popularity wasn't high enough, so he took this opportunity to hype up, and so he went up against Lu Chen. This hard and powerful actor frequently appeared on variety shows and online media, and was constantly interviewed by reporters. First, he said that he played a very different Zhang Zhao, and then he thought that the new 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants would become a classic of martial arts movies. Later, he directly challenged Lu Chen in an interview. Lu Chen's skills are very strong. I've seen his fight with Li Zicheng. It's very powerful and worthy of admiration. But fighting in reality is different from shooting a movie. In this regard, I'm not modest to say that my experience is richer than Lu Chen's, and I can make a real martial arts style. The Land Pictures thinks the same, so they chose me to play the most important role. Zhang Zhao is a person with a very chivalrous spirit. Originally, I wanted to have a real fight with Lu Chen, but it's definitely not suitable now. So, let's have a literary competition through the movie, and see whose martial arts movie is more exciting. Under the deliberate guidance of the reporters, Goulet talked non-stop, as if he regarded Lu Chen as his biggest competitor, and he was very confident that he could win. Not only that, but he also posted the interview on his blog, and then with the hype of the internet, it quickly made it to the homepage of Wave's blog, and fiercely gained a large number of fans. Many of Lu Chen's fans were very dissatisfied after seeing the video, and they left comments to scold and ridicule. As a result, it was exactly what Goulet wanted, and he responded on his blog continuously. I'm not proud, but I'm not humble either. It's useless to say more, let's speak with facts. Please don't scold people, I think Lu Chen's fans should be of good quality. Goulet was undoubtedly very smart. Everyone knew that he was taking advantage of the popularity to hype himself up, but he acted as if he was innocent and telling the truth, which annoyed people but could not do anything about it. Of course, the most important thing was Lu Chen's attitude, and whether Lu Chen responded or not, or how he responded. For him, there would be corresponding moves, and he would pester him as much as he could. In the entertainment industry, Goulet was by no means the first person to play this kind of trick, and he would not be the last. As long as it was a popular star artist, they would never be able to avoid such harassment. Not only Goulet, but there were more than 1 or 2 people in the industry who wanted to take advantage of Lu Chen's popularity, and they all changed their tactics, making Lu Chen the target of public criticism for a while. Lu Chen's fans were very rational. After seeing through Goulet's intentions, they did not help him hype up, but everyone was also very concerned about how Lu Chen would deal with such a situation. Chapter 801. As the target of many people in the circle, Lu Chen, who was in the middle of the whirlpool of public opinion, was very calm. Since his debut, he had been releasing many works, and his popularity had been soaring. His commercial value was getting higher and higher. Similar situations were happening more and more often, so he was not surprised at all. It was just that some people were hyping up the news very fiercely this time. His response was to ignore it for the time being and observe the development of the situation. If this wave of hype could subside by itself, that would be the best. If it spread further, then he would consider taking appropriate measures. Now if Lu Chen is in a hurry to jump out and fight with the other party, then he will really fall into the trap. Perhaps some star artists in this kind of situation like to rely on a fight to stir up a wave, but Lu Chen really disdains it. In contrast, he was more concerned about his girlfriend in Ningxian. "Oh, I didn't expect the scenery in your hometown to be so beautiful," Chen Feier said happily on the phone. "I like it here very much. It's a good place to film." Lu Chen had lived in Ningxian for several years when he was a child, so he certainly knew the scenery there was very good. However, he had not been back in the last 10 years, so he did not know the situation there. Hearing what Chen Feier said, he was relieved and asked with a smile, "Then when are you coming back?" It was half of his hometown, and his mother had called him in person. His uncle and the county magistrate had come to the capital for help. Lu Chen had to give them face. Since they met the conditions, of course it was a happy ending. The smiling, proud wanderer would shoot 3 movies in a row, so it was impossible to only shoot in one place. It was a win-win situation to include Ningxian as the shooting location. "Let's stay for 2 more days." Chen Feier smiled and said, "The scenery here is very original, and spring comes early in the mountains. The weather here is much more comfortable than in the capital. Today, Lu Shi and I just climbed Xingning Mountain and burned incense in Yunshan Temple. Tomorrow, we will go to the film and television city and take some photos in real life." Obviously, she was a little addicted to it. What else could Lu Chen say? "Well, stay for a few more days if you have fun." "Well, happy holidays." Chen Feier was stunned when she heard that. She immediately came to a realization. "Ah, today is Women's Day. Do you have a gift for me?" Lu Chen sighed. "Didn't you see the big red envelope I sent you with QQ? QQ just launched the red envelope function during the new year. During the new year, he sent out millions of red envelopes." Of course, Chen Feier was not short of money, but it was his sincerity that mattered. Sure enough, she was very happy. I didn't even notice." "Thank you, my dear." The two of them cuddled for a few more minutes, and then Chen Feier reluctantly handed the phone to Lu Shi. "Sister, happy holidays." Lu Shi said snappily, "All right, don't play this game with me. I'm talking business with you." Lu Chen coughed twice and said, "Okay." What Lu Shi said to Lu Chen was really serious, and it was not a trivial matter. The Ningxian County government intended to sell shares of Ningxian Film and Television City to Chen Fei Media, and the highest proportion of transfer was 49%. The intention of the Ningxian County government was obvious. They wanted to tie Chen Fei Media to the chariot of the development of Ningxian's tourism industry and use the influence of Chen Fei Media to carry out publicity and promotion. In addition, they wanted to recover part of the investment and fill the government's already stretched budget. Of course, Ningxian County was not a unilateral demand. Ningxian Film and Television City has been basically completed. The investment is huge and the facilities are complete. The most important thing is that it contains the most elite tourism resources of Qingning Mountain, and the potential value is extremely high. Today, the domestic tourism industry is booming. As long as it is properly managed, the future return of this investment is undoubtedly very high. However, involving hundreds of millions of projects, Lu Shi did not dare to make the decision herself. Lu Chen thought about it and said, "Sister, I don't have much experience in this area, so it's up to you to decide. But I have a suggestion. If you decide to invest, then bring Sister Mushi with you." Last time, Li Mushi complained to Lu Chen that he didn't bring her to play in the investment project, so this time, Li Mushi was added to fulfill the promise and share the pressure of Chen Fei Media. It also added insurance for the investment. With the participation of Li Mushi, who represented the Li family, it could really reduce a lot of trouble. Although this was a little harsh, it was true. Lu Chen didn't care how much he earned, but he didn't want to get involved in unnecessary trouble to make money. Lu Shi understood in a second. "Your suggestion is very correct. Then I'll contact Mushi and see if she's interested." Lu Chen was pleased. "That's it. By the way, you can learn about the situation there. On behalf of me and the company, you can donate some money to the lonely elderly or poor students in the county. It can be regarded as half a hometown person's heart. Lu Chen had always been very attentive in charity. It was natural to repay Sang Zi. He could also use this to establish a more friendly relationship with the Ningxian County government, which was conducive to the development of future shooting work. Lu Shi agreed. Things in Ningxian went very smoothly, but the trouble Lu Chen faced did not reduce at all. Gu Lei was addicted to riding on the popularity. Seeing that Lu Chen didn't respond, he became more and more unscrupulous in his hype. Gu Lei is confident to make a martial arts movie to beat Lu Chen. Who is the real tough martial arts star? Gu Lei says he has something to say. The new 7 heroes and 5 righteous vs the smiling, proud wanderer. Who will be the box office champion this summer? Gu Lei accepts an interview with a reporter from EasyNet and admits that he has no pressure facing Lu Chen. His hype was in full swing, and others were envious. What was originally a small fuss was also deliberately expanded. All kinds of true and false news were flying all over the internet, and it became a trend for a while. As a result, the fans who had been waiting for Lu Chen to fight back couldn't help but feel anxious. Everyone was angry at the shameless and dirty people like Gu Lei, and worried that Lu Chen would be affected, so they all ran to his blog to support or question him. Lu Chen still remained silent, as if he was waiting for something. On the evening of March 9th, Chen Fei updated her blog, and the theme of her new blog post was a photo. In the photo, Chen Fei was wearing a set of exquisitely embroidered goose yellow floral smoky gauze gown, with a phoenix head gold hairpin inserted in her lightly gathered and slowly pinched hair. Her beautiful eyes were smiling, and she was leaning lazily against a peach blossom tree with blooming stamens. Behind her was a green forest, a stream winding through the forest, and a stone bridge flying over it. Under the bridge, 3 to 5 white ducks were playing in the water. The people and the scenery blended together perfectly, and it was extremely beautiful. There was no text in this blog post except for the photo. It just Lu Chen and added a playful emoji. Chapter 802. Chen Fei's photo was taken in Sushi Town at the foot of Qingning Mountain. This ancient town with a history of hundreds of years was very famous in Ningxian. Its architectural style and culture were very traditional. It was often visited by backpackers, and now it had become one of the attractions in Ningxian's tourist area. The stream in the photo was from Qingning Mountain and meandered through the ancient town. In March every year, the peach blossom forest by the stream was in full bloom, and it was the most beautiful time. The scenery was beautiful, and the person was even more beautiful. Chen Fei rarely took photos in ancient costumes. Last time when she was filming a Chinese ghost story, she played the role of the boss. Compared with today's photo posted on the blog, it was a completely different style. It really made people's eyes light up. The fans directly knelt down. So beautiful. It's so beautiful that I can't stand it. Foul, foul. The real goddess is unparalleled. I want to know where this photo was taken. I want the original high-resolution photo. I want to use it as my computer desktop. I'm begging. My Fei is so suitable to wear the traditional Chinese costume. Is this the official photo of the smiling, proud wanderer? It's so beautiful. Ren Yingying, like many female stars, Chen Fei often posted photos on the blog. Some of them were photos of her life or work, and of course, there were also selfies. But unlike most people, her photos were never overdone with Photoshop, and she would not use any software to overdo it. She completely showed her true beauty. There was basically no Photoshop effect in this photo, but both the color and the composition were very clever. It used the poetic scenery to set off Chen Fei's beauty and temperament. It was reasonable to win countless fans' praise. It could be seen that Chen Fei liked this photo very much, so she took it out and put it on the blog. She also tagged Lu Chen. Although there were no words, the meaning was obvious: come and praise me. When Lu Chen saw this photo, he had just returned home. Because Lu Shi took people to Ningxian for the examination, he had to stay in the company. In addition to the program production of The Eight Storms Return to the Capital, he was busy until 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. After taking a shower, he habitually turned on his computer and logged into his blog, only to see countless people tagging him. Seeing the peach blossoms in the photo, Lu Chen felt the tiredness of a busy day disappear, and he couldn't help but smile. He pondered for a moment before replying to Chen Feier with a few lines of poetry. The birth of spring, the first spring forest tenley of spring breeze is not as good as you. This short poem of only 15 words came from Lu Chen's memories in his dream world. Although it was extremely short, it spoke of the beauty of spring. But on the basis of describing the spring scenery, it also used the words, not as good as you, to express the love and admiration in his heart. No matter how beautiful the spring scenery is, no matter how strong the feeling of spring is, no matter how warm the spring breeze is, it is not as good as having you by my side and in my heart. Lu Chen felt that only this poem could express his love. When Chen Feier saw his reply, he quickly replied with a shy emoji that could melt a girl's heart. As for the countless fans, they were fed dog food. So sad, just after Women's Day, I'm fed dog food again. Is there any justice in this world? Wow, Chen can write poems? Those who ask Lu Chen can write poems are really drunk. Lu Chen has written so many songs, isn't it normal that he can write poems? Spring breeze is not as good as you, it's written too well. Is this a love poem that Chen gave to Feier? It's so fitting, If anyone writes such a love poem to me, I'll marry him immediately. I'm going to engrave this poem on my phone. Lu Chen and Chen Feier's blog fans added up to more than 200 million. Although there was definitely a large number of overlap in the entire entertainment industry, they were absolutely invincible. Any blog post by the two could get millions of clicks, hundreds of thousands of comments and forwards, and the interaction between the two tonight was particularly different, truly illustrating what it meant to be a perfect match. A photo and a short poem instantly blew up the Waves blog. In just 1 hour, Lu Chen's blog had been forwarded more than 500,000 times, and there were hundreds of thousands of comments. In the modern online society, with a killing machine like search engines, it was simply too easy to determine whether a poem was original or not. The fans who had their hearts poked praised it, and it also attracted many people in the industry and even big and small VIPs in the literary circle to join in. Without any suspense, Lu Chen's new blog post reached the top of the hot topics on the homepage of Waves blog. Lu Chen and Chen Feier and Spring Breeze is not as good as you also quickly appeared on the keyword search list. If it was an ordinary person who wrote the same poem and published it on the blog, the result was likely to be drowned in the sea of words of hundreds of millions of people, and it would not cause the slightest ripple. Even if it was published in newspapers and magazines, there might not be much of a response. Perhaps the brilliance of a good poem could not be buried forever, and it would eventually be loved and recognized by people, but it would never spread throughout the entire online world in such a short period of time, and be read and discussed by hundreds of millions of people. A literary critic wrote on his blog, "Thank you, Lu Chen, for letting me read a good poem and understand a true love. I used to think that poets no longer belonged to this era, but now I know I was wrong. Do you know what I want to do the most now?" When the online world was in an uproar, Chen Feier called Lu Chen. Her voice was full of gentle love. "I want to fly back to your side immediately." Lu Chen laughed and said, "If I had known, would have written a few more poems for you." Chen Feier sighed and said, "Really, I really feel that I am the happiest woman in the world. If I could be by your side now, it would be perfect." A woman immersed in a sweet love was irrational. "I'll get my assistant to drive me back now." "Don't." Lu Chen was shocked. "It's so far away, it's too dangerous to drive at night." What a joke! From Ningxian to Beijing on the highway, it was at least 2,000 kilometers, and it would take more than 10 hours to drive smoothly. How could he be at ease? Chen Feier giggled. "I know, I was just saying, look at how scared you are." Lu Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. "All right, you must be tired today, right? Rest early." "No," Chen Feier was willful. "I want to talk to you more, listen to your voice." Fortunately, the fans could not hear the conversation between the two, or else they would have goosebumps all over their bodies. The two were sweet and affectionate, and although they were separated by thousands of miles, it was as if they were close at hand. Some people, on the other hand, were stuffed with the dog food by the two of them and felt very upset. Chapter 803. Bang! A fist slammed heavily on the desk, causing the laptop placed on it to jump. The screen fluctuated a few times before stabilizing again. What was displayed on the screen was the hot list of Inspur. Goulet picked up the bottle of mineral water on the bar and gulped it down in one gulp. His eyes were glued to the screen, and he squeezed the empty plastic bottle in his hand until it made a cracking sound, just like his mood at the moment. In just a few hours, his popularity on Wave's blog dropped by 3 places and directly fell off the homepage list. The internet world is vast and boundless, and there are countless news transmitted through the internet every day. As the largest online community platform in China, Wave's blog can reflect current hot events to a large extent. Because of this, the hot list on the homepage of Wave's blog is updated very quickly. Because there are new and even big events every day, it attracts tens of millions of netizens to comment, click, and forward. It's just that no event can maintain enough freshness forever. Today's world-shaking event may not be talked about by many people in 2 days because everyone is attracted by the new information. Some time ago, Goulet desperately hyped up his popularity, and finally got on the hot list of the homepage of Inspur as he wished. It is reasonable to say that he should be satisfied after a few days on it. It is difficult for many star artists to show their faces. But Goulet is very unhappy, very dissatisfied. How do you do things? We paid the money that should be paid, didn't we? We agreed to stay on the homepage for at least a week, but now it has fallen off after only 3 days. What do you think we should do? He spewed all the depression and annoyance in his heart at the 2 men sitting opposite him, resisting the urge to beat them up. Goulet's temper has always been bad. When he first switched to the film and television industry, he suffered a lot because of his bad temper and almost couldn't make it in. Later, he hit the wall and his head was bleeding. Finally, he came to his senses and restrained his nature and temper. He was careful with his tail between his legs. When it was time to be a grandson, he knelt down and did not hesitate. Finally, the clouds parted to see the moon. After becoming famous, Goulet would occasionally act like a big shot, but he didn't dare to go too far. After all, he hadn't made it to the top level, and it was not easy to act like a big shot. If he offended someone he shouldn't provoke, he might be beaten back to his original state overnight. However, his recent fame had caused his temper to rise, and today, he finally couldn't hold it in any longer. The fact that he didn't beat them up was already the result of him enduring for a long time. In fact, Goulet also had a reason to be angry. He and the company he signed a contract with had invested millions in the hype, and had hired the industry's top marketing company for this. The person he had just insulted was the business representative and professional speculator of this online marketing company. It sounded a little unbelievable. Spending a few million just to hype himself up. In fact, in the industry, if you wanted to hype yourself up, you had to spend money. It was just that there were tens of thousands of speculation methods and hundreds of thousands of strategies. Spending a few million might seem like a lot, but it was actually very normal if one thought about it carefully. For example, if one wanted to hire a promoter and gunman, they would have to spend as much money as they could if they wanted to have a good effect. They would also have to bribe media reporters and give them a lot of red packets. It might have been possible to become famous on the internet without spending money a few years ago, but it was impossible now. Take a few big web portals for example. If one wanted to get into the entertainment section of the news, they would have to spend money to buy a position. It was even more expensive to get on the headlines. Writing a good article would cost thousands of yuan. Goulet's weakness was that his reputation was not loud enough and his popularity was not strong enough. If he wanted to rely on hype to rise up, in addition to riding on the popularity of big names, he would have to be willing to spend money to hype himself up. Goulet was not afraid of spending money. Anyway, he had the company he signed a contract with to back him up. The money he spent on hype now would sooner or later be earned back with interest. However, he had spent a lot of money, and it took him a lot of effort to jump up and down. Seeing that his own hype was getting more and more popular, suddenly a big basin of cold water was poured down on him. How could he bear it? He had just enjoyed the feeling of being in the limelight and everyone's attention. That was especially unbearable to be ignored by the public. And looking at the top of the Waves blog's hot list, Spring Breeze is Not Like You, Lu Chen's love poem, Chen Fei's beautiful photos. There was even being fed dog food again. Goulet felt that he was F***ked. Casually counting, on today's Waves blog's hot list, there were as many as 4 or 5 posts related to Lu Chen. And what did Lu Chen do? Lu Chen only wrote a short poem. The content of 15 words easily crushed him into slag. It was really F***king unbelievable. Goulet did not want to admit how jealous he was of Lu Chen. He did not want to be inferior to Lu Chen. He did not think that he would benefit from riding on Lu Chen's popularity. He only felt that fate was unfair. You have to think of a way to stir up the popularity again. Regarding Goulet's tough request, the two marketing companies looked at each other. In fact, they were also quite helpless. Nowadays, hyping up hot topics was considered a technical job. It was not possible to use brute force. Some time ago, the hype was already very strong. If they increased the effort, it would be as bad as not enough. The most important thing was that the Waves blog had always strictly controlled the hype on the internet. Although there were unspoken rules that could be exploited, if one crossed the line, it would be very difficult to deal with. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame Lu Chen for being too abnormal. His hundreds of millions of fans in Inspire blog were simply terrifying, and his influence was so great that almost no one could compete with him. He didn't need to accompany Goulet to fight at all. He just had an artistic interaction with Chen Fei, and all his competitors were knocked into the dust. Compared to the calm Lu Chen, Goulet was like a dancing clown on the street. The difference was obvious. The marketing company originally had a complete preparatory plan to deal with Lu Chen's possible reaction, whether it was counterattack or silence. There were corresponding countermeasures, but they did not expect Lu Chen's response to be so unique. That was, you play your game, I play mine. Can you beat me? Indeed, you can't beat me. The marketing company's people were also helpless. They could not go against the wishes of the investor. Otherwise, how could they make money? The sales representative coughed, patted his chest and said to Goulet, Mr. Gu, please rest assured that our company will go all out to achieve the goal and help you get back on the hot list. Goulet stared at him. You said it yourself, ding. At this moment, a crisp and sweet sound came from the laptop. The open blog page showed that Goulet's account had just received a new message. Goulet's heart could not help but skip a beat. Suddenly, he had a bad feeling. He quickly held the mouse and clicked on the message. The message indicated that the account he followed had just published a new blog post. And this account was Lu Chen. Chapter 804. Lu Chen's blog was updated again. It was reasonable to say that this should be a normal thing. It was not worth making a fuss at all. It should be known that the current online social media platform was an important place for celebrities and artists in the entertainment industry. Its importance had long surpassed traditional media such as television and newspapers. Basically, all the people in the industry had a verified account on Waves blog. Some celebrities were known as blog fanatics. They would even post dozens of blog posts a day. Big things like filming movies and TV series, photos and concerts, and small things like eating, walking, and shopping would be posted on the blog. Daily selfies were indispensable. In contrast, Lu Chen, who had the first number of Waves blog fans, updated his blog at a very low frequency. Moreover, he did not like to hype on his personal blog, which was very different from many of his peers. As a target to ride on the popularity, Goulet had followed Lu Chen's blog for a long time. He knew Lu Chen's style very well. Putting aside his jealousy, he still had an indescribable admiration for Lu Chen's aloof attitude. Because he couldn't do it himself. But now that he saw Lu Chen's blog update, Goulet had a feeling of fear. Previously, he tried his best to hype up the popularity because he was sure that Lu Chen would not be serious with him. Therefore, he was very unscrupulous, thinking that even if he was counterattacked by Lu Chen, he would not be afraid. However, it turned out that Goulet was very wrong. Lu Chen did not need to fight with him at all. He used a few lines of poems to attract all the attention, making him feel like he was a joke. Goulet had a phobia of blogs, but he could not ignore it. So, he clicked on Lu Chen's blog to see what the latter had done. In fact, Goulet himself didn't know that his current mentality was extremely ridiculous. Although his hype behavior, along with a group of followers, did bring some trouble to Lu Chen in public opinion. But Lu Chen did not care at all. Because his status in the industry and his popularity in the country were unshakable, there was no need for him to lower himself to argue with people like Goulet. Of course, since there was trouble, he had to find a way to solve it. Lu Chen's way of dealing with it was very simple. You play your game, and I'll play mine. Let's see who wins. Moreover, if he wanted to play, he would definitely play with new tricks and new heights. A poem that triggered a heated discussion among hundreds of millions of people was considered as an appetizer. Lu Chen released the song on his newly updated blog. At the same time, he tagged Chen Feier, For You in the Distance. This was an original work of his, and it was called 10 Miles of Spring Breeze. I'm in the second ring road, thinking of you. You're on the distant mountain, enjoying the spring breeze. Today, the wind blows against you, and it rains. I say that all the wine in the world is inferior to you. In the night of the drum tower, I sing for you the fragrance of flowers. Elsewhere, silent encounters and expectations, the plane flew over the busy city. 1,000 li away, but I won't leave. Last year, Lu Chen hadn't released a new song for a long time, because he spent most of his time and energy on the filming of the TV series. In addition, he also went to the United States. For Lu Chen's fans, a TV play a year makes her/them very happy, but Lu Chen's fans are very unhappy. Moreover, Lu Chen hasn't held a concert so far, and the third record is still far away, which makes people complain. The main reason was that everyone was spoiled. They were used to Lu Chen's musical talent, which was like a fountain, and were used to the continuous surprises he brought, so their ears became very picky, and they always compared his works with other musicians. Fortunately, since the new year, Lu Chen wrote several more songs in succession, which finally appeased the fans' complaints. Moreover, people also found that Lu Chen now liked to release new songs on Waves's blog. If you read his blog daily, you might get an unexpected surprise. This time, Lu Chen released a new work on his blog again. Therefore, thousands of fans listened to and downloaded the song, 10 Miles of Spring Breeze, at the first time. All the spring is kneaded into a morning. All the words that can't stop turn into a secret and close the door. Inexplicable feelings, may I ask who will take them away? I have to turn the years into songs, and leave them in the mountains and rivers. This song, 10 Miles of Spring Breeze, continued Lu Chen's most commendable folk song style, and it was dedicated to Chen Feier. It was gentle and affectionate. It sang the deepest longing for her in the distance. What was very special was that 10 Miles of Spring Breeze was derived from the poem, Spring, that Lu Chen wrote for Chen Feier previously, and it changed the theme and content, maintaining the continuation and sublimation of emotion. The most impressive part of the song was undoubtedly the line, I said all the wine is not as good as you. From 10 Miles of Spring Breeze is not as good as you to all the wine is not as good as you, it sang Lu Chen's deepest love. To this, Chen Feier replied with 3 words, I love you. If the interaction between Lu Chen and Chen Feier on the blog yesterday was a ton of dog food sprinkled to everyone, then today it was at least a truck of dog food. Listening to this song, the fans' feelings were really complicated. Those who had love in their hearts naturally resonated with it, those who were alone were sad, envious, jealous, and hateful, and those who had loved before were melancholy and sorrowful. Someone wrote in the comment, after listening to the first time, I dug out a few cans of beer from the fridge and drank it, hoping to get drunk and see her again in my drunken dreams. Thank you, Lu Chen, thank you for this song. His comment resonated with countless fans, and many people wrote their own stories on Lu Chen's blog and poured out their love. That year, I got drunk for the first time because of her. I liked her, but she didn't like me. All the wine is not as good as you, Zhang Yumeng, I love you. With tears flowing, I listened to it over and over again. When I was young, I didn't understand love, and now I really regret it. My boyfriend is now thousands of miles away. There were so many comments from fans that 10 Miles of Spring Wind appeared on the hot list on the homepage of Waves's blog in just 10 minutes. The speed was so fast that it was jaw-dropping, and it definitely set a record for Waves's blog. Lu Chen's previous and subsequent blog posts also made Gu Lei's hype a complete joke. Although the marketing company hired by Gu Lei's contracting company later tried its best to hype up the heat again, not only did it not succeed, but it received a lot of negative comments and was hated by many people. Tn. Lu Chen because the poems and new songs written by Lu Chen represented the love that people yearned for in their hearts. Those who tried to use him to hype up the song naturally appeared particularly despicable and shameless. Those beautiful things should not be tarnished. Note, 10 Miles of Spring Wind lyrics/music, Dubi. Chapter 805. Beijing, New Era Art Park, East District, Borui Museum. The predecessor of Borui Museum was a 5-story factory production building, built in the 1970s. It was wide, sturdy, and rough, with a very typical Soviet style. Nowadays, it was rare in the highly modernized Beijing. The reason why it could be preserved was due to the construction of the art park. At that time, the designer transformed it into a large-scale art exhibition center and divided it into several functional areas, so that the 40-year-old building was rejuvenated and became a unique landscape in the park. At 9 a.m., a large group of excited young people came to Borui Museum. They didn't come to see the art exhibition held here, but to visit and learn the newly opened martial arts club. These young people in their teens and 20s were the actors of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. They were the winners of the audition, and there were more than 100 people in total. The martial arts club was established by Chinfei Media, which rented an area of 850 square meters on the 5th floor of Borui Museum. It was built into a first-class martial arts training place in China, specializing in the training of stunt doubles and action actors in films and TV series. Although the area of the martial arts club was not very large, all kinds of training facilities were top-notch. Many of the equipment was imported and worth more than 10 million yuan. In addition, a lot of special equipment was customized, such as wires, wooden dummies, universal suspension arms, and so on. The core strength of the martial arts club was the Lu family squad built by Lu Chen. The establishment of the martial arts club was to expand the number of members of the Lu family squad to meet the talents needed for the development and expansion of the wuxia IP. Before the Lu family squad, the domestic film and television industry was almost blank in this area. Although there were stunt doubles and action actors, they were basically all incompetent. But now with the emergence of the wuxia craze, the talent in this area suddenly became scarce. In fact, except for Lu Chen, the positioning of the wuxia film and TV series in the circle even stopped at the Hong Kong TV series in the 1970s and 1980s, or foreign action films, and did not realize the great changes that were about to occur. And Lu Chen was very clear about what he wanted and what he needed to do. He began the development of the wuxia IP 2 years ago, and prepared step by step. It could be said that he firmly took the initiative. These young people who passed the audition were undoubtedly very good seeds. They had a very good foundation, mastered at least one martial arts skill, and were full of vitality and plasticity. Of course, the first batch of students of the martial arts club did not need so many people, so they must be the best of the best. Therefore, Lu Chen specially arranged today's visit to increase his understanding of them. If they could catch his eye, even if they were eliminated in the later stage of the draft, he could still sign them. For these young people, coming to the Essence Martial Arts Dojo was like entering the Grand View Garden. The equipment and facilities inside were too high-end. They had never seen many of them before, so they were especially curious and fresh. Not only that, but the training of the Lu Martial Arts Club, but also opened their eyes. By Lu members training in martial. What excited the young people most was that they saw Lu Chen here. Martial school, as soon as his voice fell, martial was martial college, martial arts club, China, and martial sect, league, and college, and world. And as soon as he finished speaking, there was a warm applause. Many people desperately clapped to vent their excitement. This was Lu Chen, everyone's idol. Many young people traveled thousands of miles to Beijing. In addition to fulfilling their dreams of becoming actors, they also wanted to see Lu Chen. Even if they were eliminated, it was worth it to speak a few words with Lu Chen. Now they finally got what they wanted. Next to them, the CCTV variety channel's cameraman, carrying a high-definition camera, faithfully recorded the scene. The video would be sent back to CCTV for editing and broadcast as an important part of the talent show. Lu Chen smiled and waited for the applause to subside. He introduced Wan Yong to everyone. This is Martial Arts Club's chief instructor, Teacher Wan Yong. He will be in charge of your training here for the next 3 days. Welcome. There was another round of applause, and many people shouted in unison, Martial Arts Club, Teacher Wan. Wan Yong's expression was serious. He was not affected by the applause at all. He said in a deep voice, "Welcome to the Martial Arts Club. From now on, you are students of the Martial Arts Club. Although you only have 3 days to learn, the club has arranged many strict training programs for you. It will definitely be very hard. If you are afraid of suffering, then you can leave now." His sharp eyes swept across the faces of the students, as if he was waiting for someone to leave. However, none of the young people who had passed the online audition and passed the difficult challenge would leave at this time. They had all learned martial arts, and many of them were martial arts students. Why would they be afraid of suffering? Moreover, there was a camera next to them. If anyone were to admit defeat, it would be equivalent to embarrassing themselves in front of the whole country. The young people all straightened their chests and met Wan Yong's gaze like soldiers being inspected. Lu Chen retreated to the side. He was not the protagonist today. They were. These young people were the hope and the future. After a while, Wan Yong nodded with satisfaction. Very good. Since no one wants to leave, then I will now divide you into groups. Each group will have a teacher responsible for training. A total of 170 students were divided into 10 groups. Each group had 17 members. The teacher who served as their teacher was the official member of the Lu family class. The martial arts club had already prepared the training clothes. After the students changed in their respective locker rooms, they came out and lined up in groups. They directly began the first day of basic training. In the past, the fighting in martial arts movies used the routine fighting methods in traditional martial arts. Every move had a fixed pattern. It looked lively, but it was fake. Therefore, martial arts movies were short-lived in Hong Kong and the mainland. They did not form any climate at all. Later, they were directly replaced by action movies, which followed the style and characteristics of Hollywood. The young students had basically seen this kind of action movie. Some had also seen martial arts movies a long time ago. They originally thought that the training content of the martial arts club would not deviate from these two modes. In the end, they found that they were very wrong. What the Lu family class took was a completely new routine. It was reflected in the specific basic training. It undoubtedly brought a great impact to the students' thinking. It also let them discover a completely different world. Chapter 806. The arrival of the 170 students made the newly built elite martial arts dojo extremely lively. Under the leadership of their respective teachers, the 10 groups went through a series of basic training for film and television shooting. 3 days was a very short time, and what the students could learn was actually very limited. Unless they were peerless geniuses, it was impossible for this group of young people to become qualified martial artists through 3 days of learning. The instructors of the Liu family class mainly let them experience the process of film and television shooting in person. Simple pair training, imposing pressure, brandishing guns and swords, including all kinds of actions in front of the green screen, which were combined with computer special effects. The scene and the angle of view were taken as the criterion. Big scenes were used for big movements, small scenes were used for small details, and big movements were used for big movements such as kicking over a circle of people. Elevation was used to show a certain part of the action, and depth was used to show the situation of the fight. According to Liu Chen's standards, the shooting of martial arts films required very profound skills. He spent a long time sorting out the memory from the dream world, writing a set of detailed shooting theory for martial arts films, and constantly accumulating experience through actual shooting. When shooting the movie, A Chinese Ghost Story, Liu Chen showed off his skills. The fighting in Jianghu and the fight between good and evil in the film were wonderful and exciting, which became an important factor in the success of the film. From that time on, Liu Chen also took on the role of the action director through his mastery of the Liu family class. But A Chinese Ghost Story was not a real martial arts film, and there were not many fighting scenes. The smiling, proud wanderer was the real test for him. And the existing 20 to 30 members of the Liu family class were far from enough to support Liu Chen's grand martial arts IP plan. These young people who came from all over the country with dreams and enthusiasm were undoubtedly seeds. For seeds, Liu Chen was willing to spend time, energy, and even money to cultivate them. The 3 days of training in the martial arts club was just the beginning. To these young students, these 3 days were like a baptism of life. First of all, their horizons had been lifted from the narrow confines of the world, and they had entered a wider and more mystical world. Everyone had seen movies and TV shows, and seen all kinds of special effects in movies and TV shows. However, when they and their companions followed the instructions and performed a few prescribed actions in front of the giant green screen, and then saw the movie-level special effects on the screen, this feeling was really incomparably wonderful. The students suddenly realized that they were so close to their dreams. It was as if they took another step forward, they would be able to step into the circle that countless people envied and enjoy the limelight. This kind of knowledge brought them great stimulation, so they threw themselves into daily training with the greatest enthusiasm. No matter how hard and tired they were, they gritted their teeth and persevered. Even if they fell and rolled on the ground, they would not cry. Most importantly, in these 3 days, Liu Chen had been in the elite martial arts club, supervising their training. This batch of seedlings is not bad, Wang Yong said to Liu Chen, at least 70 to 80% of them can meet our requirements. It would be a pity to eliminate them. According to Liu Chen's plan, the Liu family class would select about 20 to 30 people from this batch of students to sign a contract and train them to participate in the filming of the smiling, proud wanderer, and even train them to become the backbone of the Liu family class in the future. However, Wang Yong did not expect that the selected students would have such good basic qualities, and basically all of them could bear hardships and were willing to learn. Thinking that most of them would be eliminated in the future, he could not help but feel pity. Liu Chen smiled and said, 20 to 30 people is the minimum. It's not a problem to have a few more good seedlings with potential. As long as you choose them, you can pick all of them. If the Liu family class expanded to more than 100 members, it would be more than enough to spend 30 to 40 million a year. Compared with the investment and profit of shooting a movie, it was nothing at all. And in the future, when the Liu family class became famous in the circle, it would be impossible for them to only shoot one movie a year. It might not even be enough to satisfy Liu Chen's big wuxia IP plan. If they really had free time, they could totally do outsourcing tasks, or even run a business. There were too many ways to make money. So if there were really good talents, they absolutely could not miss them. Wang Yong laughed and rubbed his hands with satisfaction. The Liu family class was founded by Liu Chen, but the actual manager was Wang Yong, who had always been the head of the Liu family class. Liu Chen trusted him very much. Not only did he give him a generous salary, but he also gave him enough power. A gentleman would die for a bosom friend. Wang Yong also recognized Liu Chen as a boss. Although many people came to poach him in the open and in the dark, and even offered him several times the salary, he was never tempted. Because Wan Yong believed that following Lu Chen was the brightest future. In fact, Lu Chen had never let him down, and he would never let Lu Chen down. Speaking of good seedlings, Wan Yong said, I found a few particularly good ones. Lu Chen's expression changed, and he asked, which ones? Through these few days of observation, he also found a few very outstanding students. He didn't know if there were people that Wan Yong valued. Wan Yong pointed out to Lu Chen, this one, and this one, oh yes, and this one, called Meng Hu. This young man is very talented, I want to take him as a disciple. Lu Chen immediately smiled. He waved to the student called Meng Hu, student Meng Hu, please come here. When he was called by Lu Chen, Meng Hu was practicing with the instructor. He didn't notice at first, and only reacted after the instructor reminded him, Teacher Lu is looking for me. He felt like he was in a dream, and it was very unreal. The instructor said with a smile, silly boy, hurry up, the boss must have taken a fancy to you. Meng Hu's face instantly turned red. He ran dizzily to Lu Chen and Wan Yong, and stammered, Lu, Teacher Lu, Instructor Wan, are you looking for me? The other students in the training ground all showed expressions of envy and jealousy when they saw this. This was the first time Lu Chen called out a student in the 3 days in the elite martial arts dojo. Meng Hu was going to hit the jackpot. Looking at the uneasy young man in front of him, Lu Chen asked with a smile, your name is Meng Hu, right? Meng Hu composed himself and quickly replied, yes, Meng as in Mencius, tiger as in tiger. I'm 18 years old this year, Nanyueheng Shan Neo Martial Arts School. In his nervousness, he recited his lines from the audition. Nanyueheng Shan Neo Martial Arts School. Lu Chen nodded, I remember that there are quite a few students who passed the audition in your school. You have a lot of talents. Meng Hu didn't know how to answer, so he smiled and scratched his head. Wan Yong rolled his eyes, speechless. This young man was really too inexperienced. Chapter 807. Don't be nervous. Lu Chen smiled and patted the shoulder of the young man in front of him, saying, let's spar. Spar? With Lu Chen? Meng Hu couldn't believe his ears. He wondered if he was hallucinating. He was completely dumbfounded for a moment. Wan Yong slapped his shoulder in exasperation. What are you waiting for? Wan Yong knew that Lu Chen was undoubtedly interested in Meng Hu and intended to give the latter a chance. If he didn't grasp such an opportunity firmly, he would really be struck by lightning. Although Meng Hu was stupid, in Wan Yong's eyes, this 18-year-old boy was honest, willing to endure hardship, and had good talent. He was definitely a promising talent. With Meng Hu's appearance and temperament, he might not be able to become a big star, but he was more than enough to be a qualified martial arts master. The Lu family class needed such fresh blood. Wan Yong's slap woke Meng Hu up. His face instantly turned red. He swallowed his saliva, cupped his fists and said, Teacher Lu, please give me some pointers. If it were any other star artist, Wan Yong wouldn't have said such words even if he was in awe. Because his Sanda strength was top-notch among the students of Nanyueheng Shan Neo Martial Arts School. He was qualified to compete with a Sanda teacher. How many star artists could compete with a teacher of a martial arts school? But facing Lu Chen, Wan Yong's humble request was sincere because he had seen Lu Chen's videos with billions of views on the internet. He knew how strong Lu Chen was. Meng Hu was going to spar with Lu Chen. With the permission of the instructor, the students in the training area quickly gathered around the ring to watch the spar. Looking at Meng Hu, who had just put on protective gear, they were all extremely envious. Lu Chen also put on simple protective gear. He moved his muscles a few times and asked Meng Hu, are you ready? Meng Hu nodded, but he still looked very nervous. Wan Yong acted as the referee for both sides. He stood between the two, raised his right hand and slashed down. It had begun. As soon as the competition began, Meng Hu wasn't nervous anymore. He stared at Lu Chen with rapt attention, his gaze concentrated on Lu Chen's shoulders, arms, waist, legs, and so on and so forth. He was like a tiger that was watching every single movement of its prey. Lu Chen nodded to himself. There was a type of athlete who was known as a competition player. Usually, they looked ordinary, but once they were in a competition, they would stand out and perform at an extraordinary level. Meng Hu was undoubtedly such a person. Wang Yong had not misjudged him. Just as Lu Chen was pondering, Meng Hu suddenly took 2 steps forward and closed in on Lu Chen in an instant. With lightning speed, he raised his leg and gave a fierce and powerful side kick to Lu Chen. Ah! There was an uproar around the ring. No one expected Meng Hu to be so bold as to actually dare to attack Lu Chen. Wasn't he afraid of hurting Lu Chen, offending someone, and getting kicked out of the competition? If you are smart, you should fight with Lu Chen for a few rounds in such a competition, and then lose. Lu Chen was not only the boss of Chen Fei Media, but also a world-famous superstar. Was he someone that could be easily beaten? Meng Hu was simply stupid and bold. Pa! Meng Hu's side kick was blocked by Lu Chen in time. Without thinking, he retracted his right leg with the rebound force, twisted his waist, raised his left arm, and hit Lu Chen's chest with his elbow. His moves were extremely fast, and his attacks were even more fluid, forcing Lu Chen to take a step back. Meng Hu was unforgiving. He pressed forward step by step and waved his fists continuously. His fists tore through the air and created wind. Many people below the ring couldn't bear to watch and scolded Meng Hu in their hearts. They had seen stupid people, but they had never seen such a stupid person. He was addicted to fighting after gaining the upper hand. They really wanted to go up and replace Meng Hu. They would definitely be more smart and sensible than Meng Hu. In the face of Meng Hu's storm-like attacks, Lu Chen fought and retreated at the same time, but he was calm. He countered every move and defended with ease. Both sides fought back and forth for many rounds. Meng Hu, who couldn't take down Meng Hu for a long time, consumed a lot of his qi and blood. His attacks became slightly weaker, and the speed and strength of his punches were a notch lower. But right at this moment, Lu Chen suddenly advanced instead of retreating. He turned his body sideways and lowered his shoulder to cut into Meng Hu's opening, slamming heavily into his chest. Bam! With a muffled sound, Meng Hu, who weighed 150 kilograms, was sent flying and rolled on the ring. Nice! After a moment of silence, there was a sudden burst of applause and cheers around the ring. No one expected the reversal of the battle to come so suddenly. A few seconds ago, Meng Hu still had the upper hand, but in the next moment, he was knocked down by Lu Chen. They didn't even see Lu Chen's moves clearly. Meng Hu's fall was quite ugly. He fell to the ground with a red face and was very upset. At this moment, a hand reached over. At the same time, Lu Chen's smiling face appeared in his sight. Again? Meng Hu grabbed Lu Chen's hand and stood up in a daze. He shook his head in shame and said, "Teacher Lu, I'm too far behind you." Lu Chen smiled and patted his shoulder. "Believe me, you're not that bad." After a pause, Lu Chen asked, "Meng Hu, I'll give you 2 choices now. One is to continue participating in the recording of Storms of the 8 Directions gathering in the capital, and the other is to withdraw from the show and continue training here. Think about it." Meng Hu was one of the outstanding seedlings that Wang Yong had chosen. His performance in the 3 days of training had been seen by Lu Chen, and he also thought that he was a promising talent. Therefore, Lu Chen gave him 2 choices. If it were other students present, they might hesitate in the face of such a choice. They didn't know which was the most correct choice, and they might even have other ideas. Of course, staying here to train was not a bad thing, but compared to the opportunity to appear on the show and become famous, anyone would hesitate, right? However, Meng Hu didn't hesitate at all and replied without hesitation, "Teacher Lu, I'm willing to withdraw from the show and train here." He liked the martial arts club, the atmosphere here, and the instructors here. Therefore, he liked to stay here. Lu Chen and Wang Yong looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. Wang Yong nodded and said, "Then you can stay here." In fact, what he really meant was to let Meng Hu become a real member of the Lu family class. This was because Meng Hu had passed the test and submitted a qualified or even excellent answer. Meng Hu scratched his head and revealed a joyful smile. This 18-year-old young man from Nanyue Hengshan Neo Martial Arts School, a child of the old rural area of Gannan, didn't know how important the choice he made at this moment was and how important it would be to his future. From then on, he embarked on a completely different path in life. His exciting story had just begun. Chapter 808. Chen Fei Media and the Central Television Variety Channel jointly produced the reality show, The Eight Storms Meet in Beijing. Since it was broadcast, it quickly won a large number of audiences with its strong production team, novel and special ideas, and unique program features, and the ratings kept rising. By the end of March, the ratings of the show exceeded 8%, setting the highest record of the same type of show in the Variety Channel, and dominating the top domestic variety show. Many contestants in the show stood out and attracted attention from all sides. Meng Hu's departure did not cause much waves. Although he performed very well in the challenge, he was not as good as those competitors who were better looking, so he did not attract many fans. Lu Chen left at the same time. On March 25, Lu Chen left the capital for Ningxian in Zhejiang East to attend the opening ceremony of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Before him, the newly formed crew of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, including director Chen Guoji, had already settled in Ningxian Film City and started to prepare for the shooting of the movie. Ningxian County belonged to Changshan City. The plane that Lu Chen took off from the capital, and after nearly 2 hours of flight, he landed on the runway of Changshan Airport. This time, Lu Chen was very low-key. He did not even follow his assistant. He covered his face with a hat and glasses, and then rushed here alone with a suitcase. Out of the terminal, there was already a car waiting outside the airport. Opening the door of the Mercedes-Benz, Lu Chen saw Chen Fei sitting in the back seat at a glance. Without any superfluous words, they hugged each other tightly. As the saying goes, absence makes the heart grow fonder. They hadn't seen each other for almost a month, so they naturally missed each other very much. Although Chen Fei was so passionate that she wanted to rub herself into Lu Chen's body, her assistant and bodyguard were sitting in the front seat, so she could only suppress her emotions and did not do anything too outrageous. But her bright eyes were so charming that they were about to drip water. She said softly, "I asked you to come earlier, but it took you so long." Lu Chen smiled bitterly and said, "It was because I couldn't get away from it." Although Lu Chen did not serve as a judge for Storms of the Eight Directions gathering in the capital, under the strong request of Central TV, he still participated in the production and filming of the show as a special guest. Coupled with the matter of Chen Fei Media, he was very busy in capital city and only came here now. During this time, Chen Fei and Lu Shi had been staying in Ningxian. When they first arrived, they had fun for a few days. After that, they mainly welcomed the arrival of the crew members and arranged for the official shooting. They had no time to go back to Beijing. It had taken more than a year for The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer to start shooting. According to the plan, the first movie, Sword of Mount Hua, would be released in the summer. It was almost April, so the time for shooting and production was very tight. Fortunately, the long period of preparation was sufficient. The crew and funds were abundant, and the director, actors, and script were all top-notch. Once they entered the shooting phase, the speed would be very fast. Considering the difficulty of the post-production, Lu Chen was also prepared to release it during the National Day instead of the summer. The quality and effect of the film were the most important. However, whether it was during the summer or the National Day, the two of them would have a lot of work in the next few months. Even if they were reunited after a long time, they didn't have much time to be intimate. Chen Fei sighed and said, "Work is always busy. We might as well quit the entertainment circle." Lu Chen was amused by her angry words and said, "I don't have a problem with that. Are you willing to quit?" To be honest, if Chen Fei was really tired of standing in the spotlight, he was willing to give up his career and quit the entertainment circle with her. They would live a retired life far away from the hustle and bustle. No matter how important his career was, how could it be compared to his lover? They had earned so much money that they couldn't spend it all in several lifetimes. What kind of life couldn't they live? It was a pity that Chen Fei was absolutely reluctant, especially at this time. She rolled her eyes at Lu Chen and said, "Can't I just say it?" Really? The woman was unreasonable, and God couldn't do anything about it. Lu Chen had to change the topic. "Did you have fun here? How are my grandparents?" Lu Chen's grandparents were still alive. The Fong family was a big family in Ningxian. Lu Chen had a lot of uncles and aunts, and even more cousins. But in the past, Lu Chen's family didn't have much contact with Ningxian. They just visited their relatives on New Year's Day. This time, Chen Fei followed Lu Shi to Ningxian and visited Lu Chen's grandparents. The two old people are very nice. They are very kind and amiable. Chen Fei said with a smile, "They are in good health. Grandma also gave me a pair of jade bracelets. She was talking about when you would come. Let's go and see them tomorrow." Lu Chen nodded and said, "Well, I have to go back to Binhai on the Qingming festival next month." Chen Fei held his hand and said, "I'll go with you." Looking at his girlfriend, Lu Chen smiled and said, "I'll go with you." The Mercedes-Benz drove out of the spacious and straight airport road, turned to the southwest and entered the expressway. Soon, it merged into the rushing traffic. After half an hour, the car got off the expressway and arrived at Ningxian City. Ningxian was surrounded by mountains on three sides, and only the northeast had an exit. Most of the landforms here were mountains and rivers, and there were large undeveloped virgin forests. Because there was no large-scale industrial damage, the surrounding environment and natural scenery were very good. Ningxian Film and Television City was located at the foot of Qingming Mountain, and it was an important part of Ningxian's scenic area. The main members of the smiling, proud wanderer stayed in the hotel in the Film and Television City. This 37-story, 5-star hotel was one of the landmarks of Ningxian County. The government invested a lot in it. They had hoped that the opening of the Film and Television City would attract a large number of tourists, but it turned out to be contrary to their wishes. Therefore, this time the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer chose Ningxian Film and Television City, which was undoubtedly important to Ningxian County. The government also attached great importance to it and tried their best to cooperate with the crew. Even Chen Guizhi specially called Lu Chen and praised him for choosing a good place. If it were in other big film and television cities, there would be no such high standard of treatment. As soon as Lu Chen got out of the car, he saw a long red banner hanging outside the hotel to welcome the crew. It was very eye-catching. Maybe it was pretentious, but he always felt that this time he came back to Ningxian to shoot the smiling, proud wanderer was not as friendly and familiar as before. Everything had changed. Chapter 809. Ding dong. In the luxurious suite on the top floor of the Qingming Hotel, the doorbell rang softly. Lu Chen, who had just changed into a new set of clothes, walked over and opened the door. He saw Lu Shi standing at the door with a Gucci bag. Seeing Lu Chen, his sister asked, "Are you done? If you are, let's go." Lu Chen said quickly, "Almost done." Chen Fei came out of the bedroom and came to Lu Chen's side with light steps. She said softly, "I'm done." She was wearing a plain lady spring dress today, which made her graceful figure look even taller. Although she only had a little makeup on, her face was glowing and her eyes were full of spring. She looked extraordinarily beautiful. Even Lu Shi, who was already very familiar with her, had her eyes lit up. She couldn't help but ask, "You? Why do you look so different? You're much more beautiful. What kind of elixir did you take?" Chen Fei's pretty face suddenly flushed. She didn't know how to answer her sister's question. She couldn't say that it was because she had a good time with Lu Chen last night and was moistened by the rain and dew, so she was so beautiful. Wouldn't that be shameful? Lu Chen coughed twice awkwardly and said, "Sister, let's go." Lu Shi was stunned for a moment before she understood. She also blushed. She rolled her eyes at Lu Chen and said, let's go. If it were another experienced woman, she would definitely not ask such a question. The problem was that Lu Shi had never been in a relationship, so she was so slow in this regard. The three left the hotel together and took the nanny car to the home of Lu Chen's grandparents. Lu Chen's grandfather, who was also Fang Yun's father, used to be the deputy director of the Ningxian County Local Taxation Bureau, but he retired a long time ago. Now he lived with Lu Chen's grandmother in the Jingming district of Ningxian County. Speaking of which, Lu Chen hadn't been here for a long time, especially after the Lu family's accident. His contact with his grandparents was limited to the phone. Grandpa and Grandma treated Lu Chen's mother, Fang Yun, very well. In private, they took out a lot of their savings to help Fang Yun. However, the Lu family owed too many debts, and it was a drop in the bucket. Moreover, because of this, he had a conflict with Lu Chen's uncle and aunt. This time, Lu Chen came back to Ningxian to shoot the smiling, proud wanderer, so it was reasonable for him to visit his parents first. He had bought a lot of gifts in the capital before coming here, and he brought them all today. Before Lu Chen came, Lu Shi had brought Chen Fei here once. This was the second time. What Lu Chen didn't expect was that when he knocked on his grandfather's door, the person who opened the door was actually his uncle, Fang Xinho. He couldn't help but ask in surprise, "Uncle, why are you here?" Fang Xinho said with a smile, "We knew you were coming today, so we all came." At this time, Lu Chen noticed that the living room of his grandfather's house was full of people. Familiar and unfamiliar faces were all smiling. It could be said that it was a crowded house. Uncle, big cousin, Lu Chen felt dizzy. Through the gap in the crowd, he noticed his grandfather and grandmother sitting on the sofa. When Lu Chen, Chen Fei, and Lu Shi entered the room, the living room directly boiled up. Everyone greeted them enthusiastically, and it was so noisy that his ears were numb. Some people even came out of other rooms. A few young people hid in the corner, secretly taking pictures with their mobile phones. They probably wanted to show off in their WeChat moments. Seeing so many relatives, Lu Chen's face was stiff from smiling. He had some impressions of most of the people present, but he hadn't seen most of them for several years. Many people felt strange, especially his cousins. Everyone was very polite and enthusiastic. Lu Chen couldn't put on airs, especially in front of the elders. He had to greet them, making it almost like a fan meeting. Fang Xinho couldn't stand it anymore. He stopped a few juniors, so that Lu Chen could take Chen Fei to see the main character. "Grandfather, grandmother," Lu Chen greeted respectfully, "Fei and I have come to see you. How have you been recently?" Lu Chen's grandfather was 70 years old. He had white hair and was very thin, but he was in good spirits and very strong. He said with a smile, "We are all very good. In fact, you don't have to come to see us. Last week, Lu Shi and Fei have already come. You made such a big fuss." Grandpa looked at the juniors around him with a little dissatisfaction and said, "You are so busy with work. It's not too late to come when you have time. This time, you can come to Ningxian to shoot a movie and help promote Ningxian tourism. This is very good and meaningful, old man." Grandpa was worthy of being an official. As soon as he opened his mouth, he had a long-winded posture. Unfortunately, before he could enjoy it, he was interrupted by his grandmother next to him with dissatisfaction. "Little Chen came to see us. Why are you talking to him like an official?" She smiled at Lu Chen and said, "Little Chen, sit down with Fei. Tell Grandma how you have been recently." Grandfather had an embarrassed look on his face. Lu Chen said with a smile, "It's okay, Grandma. By the way, I brought something for you and Grandpa." What he brought for the two old people was mainly nourishing health products. Although it was not very expensive, it was also a sincere intention, which made Grandma very happy. It was a pity that Fang Yun didn't come today, otherwise it would have been very reunion. As for other uninvited relatives, he was really sorry. Lu Chen didn't expect them to be here at all. It was impossible for them to prepare gifts in advance. He didn't lack money. However, the relatives who rushed over after hearing the news today didn't want Lu Chen's gifts. Most of them had other intentions. Lu Chen and Chen Fei had just sat down when an aunt pulled her 17 or 18-year-old daughter and squeezed over. She couldn't wait to say, "Little Chen, this is your cousin Xiaoyu. She is a senior in high school this year and is ready to go to the film academy. I wonder if you have any connections at the Beijing Film Academy?" Lu Chen, it was Chen Fei who reacted quickly. She immediately smiled and said, "Auntie, I know a few teachers at the Beijing Film Academy. If Xiaoyu wants to apply, then I can introduce them, but the difficulty of applying to the Beijing Film Academy is really too high. Even if I apply, I might not be able to get in." Chen Fei was definitely being modest. With her current popularity, it was very easy to get a diploma at the Beijing Film Academy. The latter would definitely welcome her with both hands. However, the difficulty of applying to the Beijing Film Academy was not lower than the top universities in Beijing. In some aspects, it was even more demanding, such as appearance. Lu Chen's cousin's appearance was not bad. She was considered pretty, but it was really difficult to get into the Beijing Film Academy, where there were many beautiful women, unless she was especially talented in the performing arts. Chen Fei said it politely and tactfully, but the young lady was still a little unconvinced. Although she didn't say anything, her expression showed that she was probably spoiled. Lu Chen smiled bitterly and felt helpless. This was just the beginning. Chapter 8-10. Lu Chen and Lu Shi didn't stay at their grandparents' house for lunch. They left with Chen Fei, after leaving behind bags of gifts on the grounds that they were too busy with work. It couldn't be helped. There were too many people at home. Lu Chen was sweating all over. In the end, even his grandfather couldn't stand it anymore. In order to avoid embarrassing situations, it was best to leave early. Anyway, he would be in Ningxian during this period of time. If he wanted to see his grandparents, he could come back at any time. This was the helplessness of the human relationship society. As the saying goes, no one cares about the poor living in the busy city, but the rich living in the deep mountains have distant relatives. When the Lu family was prosperous, relatives from Ningxian often came to Binhai to visit them. Once the family declined, it was just a matter of the fickleness of the world. Now Lu Chen is 10 times more prosperous than Lu Qingsheng when his career was at its peak. Many relatives who have disappeared naturally came back again, just to rub off some light and get some benefits. For these relatives, Lu Chen and Lu Shi didn't have the slightest good impression. They just politely dealt with them on the surface. Only elders like Fang Xinho, who were close to them, would really help them. "These people are really like flies." Back in the car, Lu Shi said angrily, "When our family had an accident, there weren't many people who even called to ask. Now I don't know where they came from. Everyone says that we owe them." Some of these relatives wanted to ask Lu Chen to do things through his connections, some wanted Lu Chen to invest, and some wanted to get a position in Chenfei Media. Some were even asked to introduce someone to the crew as an actor. And it had to be a role with enough scenes. How could Lu Shi not feel angry with such demands? It was not easy for her to endure until now. Lu Chen smiled and said, "We didn't promise them anything. Don't be angry." Lu Shi was distressed. "If we can't meet their demands, they will definitely gossip behind our backs. I'm not afraid of it, but I'm afraid it will affect your image." Now it was the age of the internet. No matter who shouted on the internet, people all over the world might hear it. If some relatives here talked nonsense on the internet, it would easily put Lu Chen in a passive position. This kind of thing was not unprecedented in the entertainment industry. Lu Chen shook his head. "It doesn't matter. Anyway, we can't expect everyone to say good things." Chen Fei agreed. "Sister Lu Shi, don't worry. If something really happens, our company's PR department will not be easy to deal with. Moreover, Lu Chen's popularity and image can't be easily shaken. When she was popular, she had also suffered from online rumors. Now, her mentality was very indifferent. As long as she had a clear conscience, she would naturally not be afraid of slander. Lu Shi waved her hand and said, "Let's not talk about this. Let's go eat." I'm so angry now. Lu Chen and Chen Fei, couldn't help smiling. After lunch in the hotel, Lu Chen met with the crew in Ningxian Film City in the afternoon. The main body of Ningxian Film and Television City covered an area of more than 2,000 mu. Although it was not as large as several famous film and television shooting bases in China, it also had its own characteristics. It was well integrated with the Fengshui treasure land of Qingning Mountain scenic area. The actual area for shooting was much larger. At present, the first phase of the film and television city had completed the construction of the ancient city, Mingqin Palace Park, Mingqin Ancient Street, Minghua Avenue, Wilderness Ancient Battlefield and other shooting attractions, as well as a large modern studio. Although it was not comprehensive, there were still a lot of types of films that could be shot. The main problems faced by this newly built film and television city were that its popularity was too small and its location was too remote. If it was in the eastern part of Zhejiang, the situation would be much better. Moreover, the investment budget was far from enough. The total investment of the major domestic film and television cities had reached tens or even tens of billions. In comparison, Ningxian Film and Television City was really small. Naturally, it was difficult to attract large film crews to come and shoot. However, these shortcomings basically did not have much impact on the smiling, the proud wanderer. In fact, it was even beneficial. If it were Jinling Film and Television City, how could they concentrate all their resources, including the government level, to serve a film crew? Now, the Ningxian Film and Television City was equivalent to the crew of the smiling, the proud wanderer. They could shoot whatever they wanted without any restrictions. They could shoot as long as they wanted. Therefore, when Lu Chen chose to shoot the smiling, the proud wanderer in Ningxian, it was not only because he wanted to support half of his hometown, nor was it because he wanted to take care of his relatives. Inside the set, the crew members were busy setting up the background. Several escort cars were parked at the corner of the street. 2 lifelike stone lions were guarding the mansion. On the plaque hanging under the eaves of the corridor, the words, Fu Wei Escort Agency, were particularly eye-catching. In front of the door, an escort flag was fluttering in the wind. Coming here was like walking into a time tunnel, which made people unable to help but marvel at the magic of the film. Boss Lu. Teacher Lu. Sister Fei. Seeing Lu Chen, Chen Fei, and Lu Shi coming over, the actors and staff members in the crew greeted them warmly. Brat, you're finally here. Director Chen Guizhi was also on the set. He was not so kind to Lu Chen. So many people are waiting for you. Don't tell me that this is your film. You can shoot it however you want. I don't like to change the plan at will. Here, perhaps only this famous director dared to be rude to Lu Chen. Director Chen, I'm so sorry. Lu Chen put his palms together and bowed to Chen Guizhi to apologize. It's all my fault. Please rest assured that before this film is finished, I will go east if you tell me to go east. I won't dare to go east if I go west. Chen Guizhi couldn't help but laugh. All right. The opening ceremony has been delayed until tomorrow. I guess we won't be able to make it in time for this summer vacation. It doesn't matter if it's a few days later or a few days earlier. According to the original plan, the smiling, proud wanderer should have started shooting at the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, due to the lack of preparation in all aspects, and the schedule conflict between the director and the actors, it was delayed until now. Chen Guizhi was not really angry. He was just deliberately establishing his authority. On the set, the director should have the supreme power. He just wanted to see if Lu Chen would cooperate. After all, the role played by Lu Chen in this film was not only the male lead. He was also the assistant director, the action director, the scriptwriter, the soundtrack, and the main investor. To Chen Guizhi's relief, Lu Chen respected and cooperated with him very much. In this way, everyone could work together and make this martial arts film great. Chapter 8-11. In addition to director Chen Guizhi, Lu Chen also met other main cast members of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. The first part of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, Sword of Mount Hua, was definitely a star-studded cast. Lu Chen, Chen Fei, Lu Gangsheng, and Tan Hong were all well-deserved superstars. Together with the famous director Chen Guizhi, it could be said to be the most anticipated domestic blockbuster this year. In addition, Shi Fang intended to play the role of Indigo Phoenix in this movie, so there was another shining name on the cast list of Sword of Mount Hua. In addition to several famous leading roles, the important supporting roles in the movie were also famous. For example, Gu Yongjun, who played the role of Yu Buchuan, Ma Rongjin, who played the role of Chu Yang, and Xia Jingyao, who played the role of Zhuo Lenchan, were all real veteran actors with fame and acting skills. In fact, since Chen Fei Media released the news of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, many entertainment agencies and even stars took the initiative to recommend themselves. Even if it was an ordinary supporting role, there would be people fighting for it. Of course, Chen Fei Media chose the best of the best. They chose senior actors who could match the roles. In the selection of young actors, they basically didn't consider the popular so-called fresh meat. They paid more attention to the price-performance ratio. There were several agents of young fresh meat actors who came uninvited, but the conditions they offered made people speechless. There was a very popular young actor in his 20s who was willing to play the role of Lin Pingji through his agent. His appearance and temperament were quite suitable for the role, and his market value was high enough. At that time, Lu Shi was also a bit tempted. But the agent asked for 50 million plus 5% of the box office, which made Lu Shi unable to continue the negotiation. If the box office of Sword of Mount Hua was calculated according to 1 billion, excluding the cost, it would be 50 million. Plus the basic salary of 50 million, it would be 100 million. If the box office results brought by the 100 million yuan spent on filming and special effects were not as good as the market appeal of this actor, then Chen Fei Media could really go to sleep and not make any movies in the future. Moreover, if he was given 100 million, then how much would Lu Chen, Chen Fei, and Lu Gangsheng need? Therefore, although the agent said that they could negotiate, Lu Shi still refused. She only mentioned it to Lu Chen afterwards and didn't take it to heart. Of course, Lu Chen was very supportive of his sister. He had always been in charge of the films and TV series, and he had never spent a huge amount of money on the choice of actors. Instead, he had paid more attention to the pre-filming and post-production. Most importantly, in the film and television industry, there were many talented but not famous actors. Their salaries were often very reasonable, and their professionalism was far better than those so-called fresh meat who were spoiled by their fans. At the same time, there were also a large number of people struggling at the bottom. They were even willing to give up all the rewards and benefits for a small role. All they wanted was a chance. Lu Chen was known as the Golden Touch and star-making machine in the circle. In the end, the role of Lin Pingji was won by a newcomer who graduated from the Capital Film Academy 2 years ago. Before joining the crew of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, he had only played a few small supporting roles in several films and TV series, barely better than a cameo without lines. It was not easy for him to get this important role, and the story could even be made into a TV series. But there were also some people who got in easily. Brother Lu Chen, sister Fei, a bald head popped out from behind Chen Guizhi and greeted Lu Chen and Chen Fei shyly. Lu Chen took a closer look and couldn't help laughing. What a pretty little nun. Dressed in a white monk's robe and shaved off her beautiful black hair, this young nun without any makeup and a shy face was Mu Xiaochu, who played Yilin. According to the script, Yilin was a very important supporting female character in The Sword of Mount Hua and The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Her scenes were only a little less than that of the first supporting female character, Yu Lingshan. It was reasonable to say that the choice of actors should be very careful. But when Lu Chen wrote the script about Yilin, the first person he thought of was Mu Xiaochu. Even in terms of character creation, he also incorporated the characteristics of Mu Xiaochu. Of course, Mu Xiaochu could also play this role. She was the soul of the first girl group MSN in the domestic pop music industry. She had shot many music videos and commercial advertisements, and had also played roles in many films and TV series. She did not lack acting experience and talent. The most important thing was that she was recognized by fans as Lu Chen's sister and everyone's sister. A role like Lin, which made people feel sorry for her, was most suitable for her. What Lu Chen didn't expect was that she actually shaved off her favorite long hair in order to play this role well. Lu Chen couldn't help asking, "Xiaochu, are you taking a photo for your makeup?" Mu Xiaochu nodded and asked shyly, "Is it ugly for me to shave my head?" In fact, with the current makeup and special effects technology, it was fine for Mu Xiaochu not to shave her hair, but she resolutely made such a decision in order to pursue the most realistic effect. "How can it be ugly?" Without waiting for Lu Chen to answer, Chen Fei smiled and took her hand. "I am the most beautiful little nun I have ever seen, and the most beautiful in all the movies." Chen Guizhi said with a smile, "Xiao Chu is very good. You are a good material." This great director rarely praised people, especially newcomers. It was not easy to get a word of praise from him. But Chen Guizhi also liked Mu Xiaochu. The little girl had an excellent character and was willing to work hard, so he naturally encouraged her. Mu Xiaochu was even more embarrassed. And the young actors around her were all envious of her. With a brother like Lu Chen, she could get whatever she wanted in today's entertainment industry. Even Chen Fei also regarded her as a sister and was not jealous of her relationship with Lu Chen. In the past, there were people who hyped up the so-called gossip, but they were severely slapped in the face. How lucky Mu Xiaochu was. "Teacher Lu, Sister Fei, The next moment, another beautiful girl came out of the crowd. It was Tong Xinyao. Tong Xinyao was signed by Chen Fei Media. Not only did she release a hot single, but she also played a role in You from the Star. She was regarded as one of the brightest stars in the entertainment industry. This time, Chen Fei Media invested in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer trilogy, and she naturally got a big piece of cake, the role of the first supporting actress, Yu Lingshan. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.